What is a friend? We all have our definitions of it. Google and the dictionaries certainly have their own. I've always defined a friend as someone a person has a closer relationship with than others, one that is mutually beneficial to both sides and sought by both participants. Whether you're just talking to that person, hanging out by going somewhere together, or just spending time with them over a call, many of these interactions share a common theme of being something mutually enjoyed and wanted. I mention my best friend sometimes, and in spite of our various issues, I think we've reached an understanding of each other that I haven't had with anyone outside of my grandparents. But what happens when someone tries to convince you that you're friends with them when you're really not? What happens when they might say one thing about you, but end up doing something completely different to you? Now, in the past, I've expressed my opposition to the friend zone. This is because I think there's something wrong with denying a man what he wants, which is a romantic relationship with a woman, while also expecting the man to give the woman what she wants, whether that be a platonic relationship or just a casual acquaintance. It's one thing for a woman to want to date someone else, but when it comes to the idea of giving her what she wants but not getting what I want, I only have one question.
When does the greed stop?
There is a difference between being friend zoned and just wanting to be friends with a woman. There are plenty of women who I am not attracted to, but still am interested in being friends with. I actually want to go over two separate incidents that tie into the overarching theme of this video. In the banana penalty, I talked about how I met a lady over the summer who had many of the same interests as me. I met her through seeing one of her videos and was surprised that she had seen and liked some of my videos. We had several calls that went on for hours, and I had a good time talking to her, and she indicated she had the same feeling. Now, out of the blue, she starts ignoring me. We had another call after this where she explained that this was due to her ex harassing her, and she promised to stop ignoring me. She then went right back to ignoring me. Several months pass, and she resurfaces, promising to speak to me in November, only to blow me off again and then unfriend me. This leads to me making a video on her, which she responds to after blocking me on her channel. And afterward, we have a voice call in which she reveals that her boyfriend, who she lied about being broken up with, did not want her speaking to me. After the call, she tells me that he has given her the ultimatum of either blocking me or ending the relationship, and she unfriends me again. I already did a video on her, but she and our following subject are retroactively connected because they both tested a question I had, which was whether it would be possible for me to just be friends with a woman. I know when it comes to romance, I turned my back on them forever, but I thought if you got rid of the thing that seemed to make them act dumb, this would stop happening. But instead, my friendship with Miss Revolving Door was killed as a result of her romance with another man. Isn't it ironic that in a situation where I am completely content with just being friends with a woman, romance still ends up messing it up? Also, I never touched on how much I helped her channel. I used to watch her videos repeatedly, share them among my associates in real life, and leave a comment on every single video. I don't even do this with my own channel, so imagine the slap in the face it was to me to be blocked by her, have all my comments deleted, and see her have the nerve to propose that we still interact on each other's channel. I never wrote anything bad about her anywhere on her channel, so it was just a move out of spite that really turned me off to wanting to have anything else to do with her. I did a stream entitled Where Are the Payoffs, and it was about how pointless many interactions with women tend to be. With Miss Revolving Door, even months after we have stopped speaking, I sometimes scratch my head at her thought process, like, she's going to tell this man on the screen that we're friends, have these hours-long back-and-forth conversations in both calls and text, and reveal a lot of personal things about herself to me, just to start ignoring me after her partner thinks we're cheating together in spite of me living in a completely different state and never even seeing what she looks like. Then disappear for months and come back and make it seem like all is well, just to lie and ignore this man again and then play victim after I make a video about her, only to reach out to seemingly reconcile and finally reveal why she's been treating me this way, just to go back to ignoring me when her partner threatens to stop being with her unless we stop speaking. In total, we spoke for 2 different periods of a few weeks, in July and then in portions of October and November, and she ignored me 5 times. It shouldn't be that convoluted just to try being friends with somebody, but also, where's the payoff? We spent all this time together, she revealed all these personal things, and the ultimate result is us not speaking? I gave her the nickname Miss Revolving Door because I really can't think of anyone else that I've had this many fallouts with where the person deliberately goes out of their way to not speak to me anymore, even if I've done nothing to them, and then keeps coming back under the guise of having reformed their wicked ways just to do the same thing over and over again. To me, she is the manifestation of everything I liked about women, the long interactions where we get to know each other, having things in common, and the appearance of wanting to actually have me around, and everything I despised about them, namely the lies, the inconsistency, and the weird push to keep insisting that I must have some romantic desires for any woman I talk to. By the last time we spoke, she had really turned into a self-parody, and I just didn't buy her apologies anymore. I had a coworker who I really liked. She was someone I saw a few times a week, spoke to almost every time I was there, and ironically enough had another coworker believing that we were flirting by virtue of how often we smiled at each other. I thought it was a dumb observation on his part, but I bring it up to say that we got along very well, to such an extent that I would say it could be argued that she may have been the coworker I was the closest to. So, at the end of January, I asked her if she wanted to see a movie with me, and she said yes. In a follow-up conversation, we exchanged numbers, and she ended it by asking if we were going as friends, which I confirmed we were. I sent her a text message asking if I could call her. For 2 days, she doesn't respond, and when I next see her at work, she tells me that she is not a call person, but that she forgot to respond to me, but will. Eventually, she answers back, and this is when she introduces the idea that she may not be able to hang out with me this upcoming Saturday. On the day we're supposed to hang out, I ask her if she's home. She confirms at the last minute that she is not, and thus my attempt to see a movie with her dies after 6 days of anticipation and me canceling everything I planned on doing that day just for her. I was mad at her and didn't try speaking to her the first day we worked together after this, and she followed this up by not speaking to me for the next 2 weeks. In a few streams, I've mentioned that many of my coworkers at this job are not nice, and in my view, much colder to the African Americans that work there than anyone else. This coworker really stood out to me as one of the few people that I had a good dialogue with. I would talk to her almost any time she was there, and she really was someone I reached out to in a way I normally don't. So in working around her for 3 straight days and being ignored throughout, I felt it, and it hurts. It hurt to just see her walking past me without saying anything, coming to my area without saying anything, me sending her a text message while she's using her phone in the same room as me and it going completely ignored. Now, after she keeps this up, I send her a message apologizing and attempting to restart our interactions, and she agrees to us pretending that it never happened. And admittedly, after this, she's much more pleasant, and I introduced the idea of possibly hanging out again. She says she's not adverse to this, and promises I'll let you know when I ask about her availability on Saturday, which is the day I tend to be the most available. Now, I gave her the benefit of the doubt, but she never updates me on her availability. So after almost a week, I ask her if she will be available the following Saturday. She again replies, I'll let you know. And this time I don't fall for it and outright tell her that she's not going to update me on her status. I also mentioned that she didn't respond to the last text message I sent her, and she clarifies that she's not really a texting person, laughing when I mention that it makes it harder to speak to her when she also refuses to have phone calls. She furthers that she's not a very social kind of person and claims she is like this with everyone. At the end of this shift, I ask her, if I send you a message, will you respond? She stares at me with a look that has been described as looking constipated or having a brain freeze for almost 10 seconds. I was disgusted by her inability to answer what I thought was a simple question, especially if it's coming from a person you claim to like, and decided I would no longer send her any messages after this. I mostly have kept my word, apart from a joke message of a cricket that made fun of both her catchphrase and the fact that I was more likely to hear crickets than confirmations of when she would actually want to hang out with me. What I began to understand, especially after we were on good terms again, was that this was a woman who may possibly like me as someone to joke around with at work, but as far as actually developing any type of meaningful friendship or correspondence with outside of being on the clock, I might as well be dead. And while I originally felt bad that she wasn't speaking to me, and that I had possibly been too harsh in getting upset with her for blowing me off, it seems she would have canceled on me no matter what I did. The only clue I had that there was something wrong with her before asking her to go see a movie with me was when I made a joke about her not offering me a ride after I found out she had a car, and she became very defensive, treating it as though it was a serious proposal on my end. I only learned of her refusing to do phone calls, barely responding to text messages, and being incapable of committing to hanging out after I made the mistake of trying to hang out with her. What drives me nuts is that she had the nerve to, at different points, ask me about the convention I went to and about a book I was reading. And I was very evasive in addressing these questions on her part because she never asked these types of things when we're not working together, which goes back to my point about her liking me as a coworker, but me being non-existent to her outside of that. Her interest in me is as real as a $3 bill. There was a guy who used to work the same job as me, and he was rumored to be dating one of our coworkers. I saw him and the aforementioned coworker while I was waiting for my shift to start. He greeted me as they sat inside his car, and I nodded at them. As they drove away, I couldn't help but think of how they seemed to be happy and enjoying each other's company, and I wondered, why? Why, out of all the women that worked there, did the one I felt comfortable enough to even try getting to know outside of working there have to be some anti-telephone call, bad at texting, flaky liar who is apparently afraid to even sit in the same car as me? Why is this my fate? When someone agrees to do something with you and then backtracks or is not committing to the same idea, you have a right to be upset with them. I had an expectation that when my coworker agrees to see a movie with me, then she should do it. When she doesn't do that and instead wants to keep pushing me away by never committing to a possible time frame to actually hang out, I have a right to no longer be interested in pursuing anything with her because I know she's just wasting my time and not giving me what I want. If I can't do anything with her outside of work, then to hell with whatever friendly interactions we might have had during our shifts. It's simply not enough. She's been sitting in the back of my mind for a few weeks now, and we'll get into the stupid things that happen over and over, but she does have some unique qualities. I've never met someone in real life that would call me a friend, but wouldn't let me call them. And this is the only coworker at any place I've ever worked that I've tried to hang out with. I just have to keep telling myself that even when we were on good terms, she wasn't actually interested in me. It's all just as fake as her makeup. A good example is that in one instance, she agreed to let me walk her to her car, and before doing this, we waited for her food to be finished being made. During this interval, she doesn't actually talk to me. She just stares at her phone until the food is ready, and we only speak after leaving together. Even in our last interaction, which took place this past Sunday, she stared at her phone for almost the entire 6 or 7 minutes that we spoke. I wish she looked at me half as much as she stared at her phone. Maybe then I'd actually think she wanted to get to know me. And why is it that women are never held accountable for the dumb things they do? If she asked me to see a movie with her and people knew that I stood her up, I would be criticized for being flaky. If I said I was open to spending time with her and promised to let her know when this would occur while never doing it, everyone would know I was stalling and wasting her time. If I went to sit by her and rudely stared at my phone while she tried telling me what was bothering her about our relationship and then got up like I was the victim, which is what she did during our last exchange, and walked away, no one would defend me. That's why I don't even want to try reconciling with her again, because if I know she doesn't care enough to initiate an attempt with me, then why should I with her? I always believed it was possible to interest a woman in yourself through sheer personality and or some set of common interest. Even if you couldn't get dates or a girlfriend or any other romantic advancement, it was entirely possible to still have a positive relationship with a woman who wasn't a family member. But now I see that's not attainable for me. Who's to say that I don't meet another woman who likes talking to me but backs away because her overly jealous boyfriend believes she is cheating, and she's too desperate to stand up for herself and therefore bends the knee? I think it's a reasonable assessment to claim that women are not as selective with their friends as they are with their romantic partners. I mention these incidents because if it is this hard to just be friends with one of them, imagine the nightmare of still trying to date them. It's funny how different Miss Revolving Door and my coworker are, almost like the latter was designed by some divine force to be as much of a variance from her but still do the same thing nonetheless. Whereas my coworker is a person I met in real life who objected to doing telephone calls, Miss Revolving Door was someone I met online who had multiple calls with me. Whereas my coworker can't be bothered to barely write one text message per day, Miss Revolving Door sometimes wrote so many messages to me that I would fall asleep while typing to her. I never once felt like Miss Revolving Door, if left to her own devices, didn't like me. But with my coworker, who seemingly has no one else making her act this way, it seems she's not all that interested. My coworker and Miss Revolving Door are united in being women who I was not romantically attracted to, and thus thought there was a higher chance of having a long-lasting correspondence or friendship with, which led me to do something to try and elevate our interactions, only for them to do something that effectively pushed me away and continue this behavior even after an attempt or multiple attempts to reconcile. It's even crazier to think that within the same week when I stopped making any further attempts to speak to Miss Revolving Door, I would start the job that would ultimately lead me to meeting this very frustrating coworker. What also needs to be understood is that I didn't talk to either of them with the intention of doing this video. If I had my way, Miss Revolving Door would still be making content with some assistance from yours truly, and we would speak on a consistent basis. And I wouldn't care who she dated. If I had my way, my coworker would have gone to see a movie with me, and if we both enjoyed it, we could do it again or some other thing to hang out. But I didn't have my way. They had theirs, and what a train wreck it led to. It's clear that I was much more interested in them than they were in me. The problem with women is that they say things that they don't mean, and they do things that don't make any sense. That's always how it has been right from the beginning. Miss Revolving Door lied when she said we were friends, and it doesn't make any sense for a grown woman to not be able to talk to another man because her boyfriend doesn't like it. My coworker lied when she agreed to see a movie with me and stood me up at the last minute, and later lied when she indicated she would let me know when she would be available to try hanging out with me again. It doesn't make any sense to say you want to hang out with someone, but only try talking to them when you're at work. In the future, I will try as hard as I can to avoid the temptation of trying to become friends with another woman, as I know it can only lead to lies. If someone gave me the option of either drinking bleach or talking to women, I would tell them to pass me the bottle because at least the bleach won't pretend it likes me. And I already know the computer clowns are going to come here, so go ahead. Defend Miss Revolving Door. Defend my coworker. And you go to hell with both of them.